It's all about life and lessons learned along the way. Welcome to this week's edition of One-on-One. I'm Victor Hogstrom. On this edition of One-on-One, my guest is actress Sonia Manzano. Generations of Americans know her as Maria from Sesame Street, a role she played for 44 years. Manzano was in Wichita recently, serving as keynote speaker at the Storytime Village Read and Rise Breakfast Gala. That's where I sat down with her to talk about her life and career and her commitment to America's children through public television and other endeavors. Sonia, it's wonderful to have you.
Thank you.
In Wichita. Thanks for being here. After 44 years on Sesame Street, as one of the lead characters, one of the writers of this program, playing the role of Maria, how much do you miss it?
Well, actually, every once in a while, my heart gets a little tugged when I come upon the show on the air because of old friends. But actually, most of the people that I interacted with aren't there either. So I actually don't miss it as much as one might think.
So where are these people, the other characters?
Well, they've moved on to other shows. As you know, Roscoe Orman is now retired from the show. Emilio Delgado, who plays Luis, is now retired. Carol Spinney passed away. Big Bird, who plays Big Bird and Oscar the Grouch. So there's new puppeteers and there's new younger actors, and the producers aren't there anymore. So though I miss them, they're not there either. So
when you joined Sesame Street 44 plus years ago, did you expect to be there 44 years?
Absolutely not. I think every 5 years of Sesame Street, we figured it was going to be the end. You know, America doesn't like old things. We're in a disposable society, and that goes for television shows too. But it was a magic storm, a perfect storm in the 60s. Boom. Everybody loved it and continues to love it.
So what has kept the program going as long as it has been going? What's the magic?
What's the magic? Well, I think if I could bottle it and sell it, I'd be a billionaire. But I think that it has a lot to do with the puppets. I think that people love their irreverency and their madness. And I think that the same way people will always love the Beatles, those four people that came together to create Sesame Street, not four people, there were more people than that, but Jim Henson and John Stone and Joan Cooney, it was a perfect storm, and they've created something that's everlasting.
So what caused you to decide it was time to move on?
I was 44 years on the show was a long time. I felt that younger people should have been brought in. They had to carry the show into the newer, for the newer generations. I had a lot of creative energy that frankly wasn't being used on Sesame Street anymore. More Muppets were being used than humans. There were a lot of changes. And I started to write books so I could put my creative energy someplace else.
So then let's talk about you, Sonia. How did you begin your life's story that ended you on Sesame Street?
Well, thank you for asking that question. I'm a Puerto Rican or New Yorican, born and raised in the Bronx. My parents came from Puerto Rico to the mainland in the 40s, and we were poor and they struggled. And I always loved stories. I always loved television, especially, even though I watched Father Knows Best, Leave It to Beaver. And I did wonder how I was going to contribute to a society that didn't see me, because you didn't see any Latin people on television. You didn't see any people of color either. And when it was time to go to college, I didn't have great grades. And the only way to get into college was if I could audition for something. So I auditioned for for Carnegie Mellon University, got in, loved theater, did Godspell at Carnegie Mellon University, came to New York, and then boom, it was the late 60s and everything was changing and it was the civil rights movement and this show happened. And activists on the West Coast said, oh wow, you have great models for African American children. How about models for the Latino community? And that's how I got cast on Sesame Street. I will give you this little anecdote. The first time I saw Sesame Street, I wasn't on it. I was a student at college. And when I saw Susan and Gordon, this beautiful African-American woman with her husband, I said, oh, in a little urban environment that looked a little bit like mine, I was stunned. And I was so happy to see people of color on television. And then I was one of them as well.
So when you were approached to be on Sesame Street, what was your reaction?
I was thrilled, but the most important things happen to you when you're not paying attention. So I didn't realize the depth of it. I thought I'd do regional theater or something like that, and this would be like, a passing thing. They had Sesame Street had already been on the Johnny Carson show, which, as you know, was an old established showbiz variety show. Once you were on that, it was the end of it. That was the pinnacle. Mm-hmm. So I thought, well, this is a nice job to have for a while. But then I saw their mission, and I got all excited about it.
When you were growing up, did you think that you would become an actress?
No. If you told me I was going to become an actress, I would have suggested you commit yourself to the nearest insane asylum, because that was not in my... I mean, you never saw any Latin actresses. You didn't see any, women of color be actresses. I remember saying to a girlfriend from the Dominican Republic how I wanted to be a ballerina, but that I had never seen any ballerinas of color. Mm-hmm. And she said, you could be the first one. And I remember that awful moment. But what I should have been thinking about was that I can't dance. But that's not what I was thinking about. So I didn't think about being an actress.
What was that dream you had? What did you want to become? What were you aiming for in life?
What I was aiming for, when I was in the South Bronx, my girlfriend and I were going to be secretaries in Manhattan and have our own apartments. That was as big as our dreams went. But I think I got turned on to artistry when I saw the movie West Side Story, because it was the first time I saw my neighborhood glorified. All of a sudden, the schoolyard fence wasn't just a fence, it was a piece of art. And I thought, beauty can be anywhere, art can be anywhere, and I wanted to be a part of art.
So as you look back on your career, especially the 44 years with Sesame Street, what were the high points and the low points?
I think one of the highest points on Sesame Street was when we did the Goodbye Mr. Hooper show, when Will Lee, the actor who played Mr. Hooper, passed away, and Dulcie Singer, the producer at that time, decided to face it head on and do programming that dealt with death and how death affects four-year-olds. And obviously a very sad and low point was when Jim Henson unexpectedly passed away from something that could have been easily remedied had he been to the hospital a few hours before. And so that was very sad because his sensibility was major, and I think what gave the show its spark.
Did you consider yourself a teacher when you were on Sesame Street? How did you perceive that role?
How did I perceive Maria? Well, they kept telling me, be yourself, be yourself. We want the little kids to relate to someone that is like them. I didn't perceive myself as a teacher. It was a struggle. It's very hard to be yourself. I had to be Sonia on purpose. And the way I managed to do that was I never forgot that there was some kid in the Bronx watching me the way I used to watch television, looking for answers, looking for clarity in life. So I tried to be as real as possible, as myself as possible. I was pretty snarky in those early shows, too. But they let me do it.
You played Maria 44 years, as we have already established. But how important do you think is public television to the American culture today?
Well, if it wasn't for public television, I don't think that Sesame Street could have happened. I think that sadly nowadays shows aren't created unless there's a marketing strategy in mind. And thankfully, public television allows shows to flourish without that concept. I love Finding Your Roots. I mean, we are absolutely addicted to Finding Your Roots and addicted to the NewsHour, especially in these days and the political climate in the United States. I'm happy to be able to watch the PBS NewsHour because I feel like I understand what's going on and nobody's yelling at me.
You also, according to your release from your agency, you have overcome countless obstacles to become one of the most influential Latinas in television. Share some of those obstacles and how did you overcome them?
Well, I think when I wrote my memoir, Becoming Maria, Love and Chaos in the South Bronx, I really delineated that fact. I was raised in a household that was ruled by domestic violence. And so that was the most important thing going on all the time was my parents. It was the typical reconciliations, a breakup, moving, reconciliations, a breakup, a moving. And I found comfort. You ask how I overcame it.
Yeah.
I found comfort watching television. It was the only thing. There was order. There was good stories. There was humor. It gave me kind of a peek into the rest of the world. Even Disney Spin and Marty, I would see what a farm was like or a ranch was like. And that's how I overcame the troubles that I had. And I think that once again, if you put yourself in an artistic situation, you find relief from whatever is going on. I had a cousin who played bass, and his family was a little nutty too. And Eddie would get up and start playing the bass. And I'd say, how could you play the bass at a moment like this? That was exactly the right moment to play the bass, because it centered him and it got him together. And that's how many children overcome obstacles like that. Literature, art, it helps.
What's the worst thing that ever happened to you in your life?
Oh my. Oh, now you're going to make me cry. The worst thing that ever happened to me, I guess I had to call the authorities on my dad at a time when I was maybe 13 years old. And I think that was too much for me to bear. But I did it. I did it.
Why?
I had to help my mother. I was afraid for my mother's safety, so I had to call the authorities on him. So this was certainly too much for a person my age to be able to manage, but I certainly did it. But so everything else that happened after was like, I can handle this. If I did that at 14, this stuff here is a piece of cake.
So tell us the best thing that's happened so far in your life.
Oh my goodness. Probably meeting my husband, Richard Reagan.
Okay.
That was a wonderful thing. Having my daughter was wonderful, and reaching a stability that I didn't think I'd be able to have because of my upbringing.
You have been honored with so many Emmys. I mean, countless. How does that make you feel, and what does that say to you?
Well, 15 Emmys, but who's counting? Anyway, since you brought it up, I was thrilled to get the Emmys. I mean, can you imagine? I was thrilled when I got an office and I saw my name outside. I said, oh my goodness, somebody actually went through the trouble of having a real plaque in my office at the Children's Television Workshop, or Sesame Workshop. But then the most important Emmy was the Lifetime Achievement Award.
Right.
That I received in 2014. And that was really meaningful to me. First of all, Lin-Manuel Miranda did a little blurb congratulating me. Rita Moreno presented it to me, so that I was thrilled about that. But I was congratulated for being a Latina representation that kids could look up to, and that I would be a role model for, and that was wonderful.
In addition to the Emmys, you have been bestowed upon 4 honorary PhDs, right. Doctorate degrees.
That's right. Call me doctor from now on.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, doctor. How have you used those titles in your life?
Actually, I haven't. The fact that you brought it up reminded me that I have doctorate degrees, and I've met some very lovely people who also received those degrees at the same time. Hank Aaron to be one of them when received the doctorate from Notre Dame University. But they're icing on the cake, and they're wonderful.
Well, there was Notre Dame and Carnegie Mellon and Tufts University
and Lehman College in the Bronx.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes.
Better than a poke in the eye. I had a producer who always said that when she received an Emmy.
We play a little game on this program. Let's try one on you.
Okay.
All right. I would tell you, say a word and tell me what you think. So it says, let's play a little game. Tell me your favorite book.
Angela's Ashes.
Food.
Alcapurrias.
Describe that.
It is a corn mass that's deep fried and stuffed with meat, and you find them in Puerto Rico in a town called Luis Aldea.
Talking about Puerto Rico, do you visit Puerto Rico often?
Not as often as I'd like to. I have cousins there, but the core, my mother's siblings have all passed.
Your favorite song?
Anything by Stevie Wonder.
Oh. Anything.
Anything. Because I remember when he was on Sesame Street, it was so thrilling.
Right.
That's the high point of all the music, the great musical artists who came to Sesame Street. Celia Cruz came, Gloria Estefan came, Tony Bennett. It's still Stevie Wonder.
Stevie Wonder. Your favorite place?
The New York City.
Oh.
Because I don't have to drive anywhere.
Do you drive at all?
Barely.
You know how to drive?
I know how to drive, but I'll tell you, if I drive in Kansas, I'll alert you to stay off the roads.
Your favorite time of day?
The morning.
Why is that?
Well, I like to get up early and write then. That's the best time to write, when everybody's asleep and there's There's no distractions.
Your favorite age in life?
Oh, that's a tough one. I guess this one. I guess the age.
I wouldn't ask what age it is.
Well, you can guess. I guess this one, but you know, it's all. I wish I knew when I was younger what I know now. I wish I had been more patient. I wish my impatience made me unkind sometimes, and I wish. I know that now. I wish I knew it then. But there you are. I'm saying what everybody in the world goes through.
Your favorite television program?
Oh, I really loved I Love Lucy.
Oh.
Because I love sketch comedy. I love pratfalls. I love that kind of broad humor.
Your favorite character on Sesame Street?
Oh, that's easy. That's Oscar the Grouch.
Oscar, okay.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I say that I left the show because 44 years was long enough for me to wait for him to propose.
So what's next for Sonia?
Well, next for me is I created a show called Almas Way with Fred Rogers Productions. It's an animated series. It's for PBS, so I hope that you like it when you see it. It takes place in the Bronx. Mm-hmm. It's inspired by my childhood. Oh. Without the negative parts.
Right.
And it's updated. Obviously, it's not the Bronx of the mid-50s. It's the Bronx of today. She's a little New Yorican girl, lives with her extended family. And the idea of the show is that kids should know they have a brain and they could think. It's not about getting information and memorization. Okay. It's about thinking. Almas Way.
Almas
so that's
Way. Right.
On my plate. And I have a book coming out to be published in 22 called Coming Up Cuban.
So why Almas Way, the name almond?
Alma means soul.
Is that a Puerto Rican word?
Yes, it's a Spanish word. It means soul.
Oh, okay.
Alma means soul, and the show is about thinking. I don't know, I just thought heart and soul and thinking and with your heart kind of made sense to me. And Alma is an easy name for preschoolers to remember.
So you like mornings as time of day, but you've written several books. Did you write them in the morning?
I did. I just actually, I love to get up and I have a few ideas and jot them down and daydream and I love to write. I wish, a famous writer, Larry Gelbart, television writer, said he loved to write so much he wished that you could put a computer on a rope, like soap on a rope, so he could write while he showered. I mean, I love writing that much,
right.
I think. And I think I would have been a writer earlier had it been exposed to me.
Right.
But when I was a kid, writing was something Caucasians did in intellectual places, not me in the Bronx. I mean, it never occurred to me, but I'm glad that I'm finally doing it.
So what are some of the titles of your books? You have two of them.
I have two here.
Right.
I just happen to have these in my purse. No. A Box Full of Kittens and No Dogs Allowed. And No Dogs Allowed was inspired by a real event. We used to go to the beach in the Bronx a lot, and it was like a caravan of people. The whole neighborhood would go, and one day neighbors brought a dog, and we got to the beach and they had to leave. But I remembered that incident, and I rewrote it with a happy ending. So every book that I write comes from a real place. A Box Full of Kittens. Also, I had an aunt. In those days, we didn't have a phone. She didn't have a phone, and she was pregnant, and my mother said, go stay with your aunt in case anything happens. So I was thinking, ooh, something's going to happen. I'm going to save the day. I'll get an award. nothing happened, but I kind of took that germ of that story and wrote a box full of kittens.
Sonia Manzano, it's been a pleasure sharing this moment with you on One-on-One.
Thank you.
Thanks for being with us.
Sure thing.